My guests today are writer-director Robin Takao Dench and actor Bobby Soto. Now, Robin is motivated to tell compelling, cinematic, and culturally diverse stories, and his multi-award winning short, Tadaima, inspired his family's experiences during the Japanese-American internment and received a certificate of commendation from the city of San Francisco, and the film screened at over 100 festivals and is included in the Densho, the Japanese-American Legacy Resource Guide. Now, actor Bobby Soto has starred in the Amazon feature film A Million Miles Away, starring opposite Michael Pena and Rosa Salazar, and he can also be seen in the multi-award winning film Flamin' Hot, directed by Eva Longoria, and can also be seen in Netflix's Narcos. Now, in 2020, Bobby was seen in Scott Teem's The Quarry, opposite of Michael Shannon and Shea Wigman, and additionally, he played the lead in David Ayer's film The Tax Collector, opposite Shia LaBeouf. Now, Robin's newest short, The Amazing FIRELINE, is a story that follows Otto, played by Bobby Soto, as he grapples with the challenges of prison life and his desire to connect with his daughter against the backdrop of a forest fire. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome writer-director Robin Takao Dench and actor Bobby Soto and the Oscar-qualifying dramatic short film, FIRELINE, to the show. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. Well, Robin, let me kick it off with you. What inspired you to create a story and a film on the incarcerated wildland firefighters? How's a tongue twister?
So the film was prompted by Indeed's Rising Voices and Lena Waithe's Helmangrad, and they were looking for films that highlight the future of work. And in searching for inspiration for the future, I looked towards the past. And I drew from Asian American experiences, specifically with Chinese American railroad workers, Irish indentured servants, and an entire labor system that stems from American slavery. And I wanted to frame, and then I was curious of what that looked like in a modern context. And so Inmate Firefighters was a sort of natural intersection between our present day relationship with the climate and also a modern exploitation of labor.
Well, what were some of the things that you learned by researching prisons who provide labor, let's say, for the state of California?
So what I learned was that on any given forest fire in California, in the state of California, up to 30% of CAL FIRE is supplemented by prison inmates, and whereas a certified wildland firefighter is making $50 to $80 an hour, which is still way less than what they should be making. An inmate firefighter who has only received 2 weeks of training is paid $5 to $8 a day. Now, that being said, while from the outside it looks like pure exploitation, the advantages for inmates to join the fire program are great. You know, they range from access to better food, access to being outdoors time. You have, for every day you're on the working the fire, you get time off your sentence. Obviously, the pay is better than your average prison job, where you can be making cents as opposed to dollars per day. And on top of all of that, it comes with the empowerment of knowing that you're doing a job that is actually supporting one's community. And so I think that there's real pride in the work. But unfortunately, one of the setbacks of this is, despite the learned skill set and the contributions to society, when you come out of prison, there's no guarantee that there's no rather clear pathway to employment within the fire department, because it requires an EMT license, and you need your record expunged in order to qualify to work as a wildland firefighter.
Well, it seems like to me they need to rework that law a little bit more. Plus, if they're only giving the prisoners 2 weeks training, I would provide a program that gives them full training that equals the exact training of what it actually takes to qualify for a firefighter, because that would work better for those when they finally released. They do have the full training. They would have, I guess, maybe a certificate to prove all of that, and then change the system to where their record can be changed to where they can get maybe the EMT license because they're going to be fully trained to be in society and overall benefit the community. So, Bobby, let me ask you this. How did you get cast in Fireline? But also, what interested you about the role of Otto?
Well, I met Robin. Um, Robin called me and we had a meeting and I read the script and I loved it. And my family has given about 56 years of life time in prison. Um, that's including my grandfather, my cousins, my parents. And so I have a lot of inmate experience or prison experience. And so when I read this script itself and the character, I really wanted to give life and honor and show what these people go through, And it is terrible that when an inmate is released from prison after serving time for a crime they might have committed, that they walk around with a scarlet letter, even though they've had training and they've had education, they've had positive reformation and reprogramming and all of these great qualities, and the rehabilitation is there. And when they come out, there's no other program for them to succeed in life. And I think this is a topic that needs to be discussed more. There are people that do change and have better opportunity with all the education that they get it in the system, and they want to have a different life when they come out. And so, um, these men that do this, they really do put their life at risk to save people, and no one knows their story. No one hears about their story. We don't hear them in the news, or no one talks about the people that are the first responders that are putting their life at risk. Um, and I think it's a very important story, and I'm very glad that we get to discuss it right now. So Otto was someone that I really felt connected with as a character and wanted to do justice.
And you did it too. I mean, from the whole experience of playing Otto, what do you think you learned the most?
It's tough. It's really tough, and it's your comrades come first. You have to really look out for everyone, and so you put yourself in the front line to make sure that the people behind you have a clear path. And so it takes a lot of courage and a lot of risk to to really trust yourself that you can do these things that you weren't truly fully trained for. Just a little bit of training, and like these men that do this thing have the highest form of courage, because they don't have the full training program, or they don't have the full, guide, but they do it anyway, and they do it with all of the heart and all of their might, and it really shows like the resilience that people have to want to change their life, even if it puts themselves into literally fire. They really do have to come out of that thing alive, if they want to have if they want to be alive and have a good life. It's really strange in that way. It's kind of like this, the feeling of the phoenix in a sense.
It is. And see, I love the fact that you were chosen to play this part because you're not playing, even though you're playing the role of a prisoner, you're not the role of one of these very hardened type criminals. You have a family on the outside. You have a daughter that you want to see and be with and talk to. So you bring a very human element to this character. And I also want to step back a bit too, because I agree with you. The system needs to change, and also society needs to change. That once you've paid your dues, the scarlet letter needs to be removed. And we need, as a society, to work in an area of forgiveness, because when men and women come out of the prison system, the hardest thing for them to obtain is a job. And we need to look at them that, hey, you've paid the price for whatever crime you committed. You've done your time. You are considered to be part of society, and we need to treat them as a normal part of society. But it comes down to changing the system and having a heart of forgiveness. And I think there's a little bit of that in this film. And Robin, I have to ask you, because one of the things that really caught my attention in this film was the first part of the film when Otto walks into the prison office and he learns that his parole has been denied. But the prison officer said something that really kind of, I don't know, it either hit me the wrong way or unnerved me, but he said, and he's telling Otto this, he goes, "I'm glad I'm not losing you right now," which I thought was a very odd statement to make to a guy who just got denied parole. I mean, look, the prisons are full. So what's losing one guy going to make a difference?
Well, I think it also speaks to the lack of resources that wildland firefighters have, and that there is a need for manpower. And so, even losing one person, especially someone who's as experienced as Otto, hurts their efforts to fight fires. And so, I think I wanted that character to operate from a place of both empathy, but also in some ways antipathy, and have a layer of, this is bigger than you and I, but at the same time, it comes at your sacrifice, not mine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me ask you this one, because when you were researching prisoners who have, I guess, stepped up and chosen to be a firefighter, have there been any prisoners ever killed in the line of duty?
So fatalities have happened. They're lower than one might expect, but what does occur a lot, and something I wanted to highlight, was injury. That I believe the statistic is an inmate firefighter is 8 times more likely to get injured on the job than a non-inmate, and I think that comes at a combination of both what they're being a combination of training, but also what they're being sent into, and using human beings as cannon fodder to again fight wildfire.
When I was looking at this film, and it wasn't just watching the film, it was really absorbing the whole story. But this story goes far beyond the film, because there's this whole way of life outside this film that about, that you're using this film to bring attention and awareness to, which I am very happy that you are doing that with this film. And I believe that people deserve a second chance. And we as a society, we have to step up to offer those second chances. Everybody screws up. Now, of course, some people screw up way more than others, or way worse than others. And of course, those people will not be most likely released from prison. But those, if it's just a drug charge or whatever, stealing a car, there's second chances outside those walls. And you show the human element in this film. You showed the danger. And there was part of me when I watched this film, I was kind of wondering, does the state exploit the use of prisoners, not just in fighting fires, but in other areas as well, just for free labor?
So I think in this particular case, we're looking at a microcosm, which is how California exploits prison labor. But I think across the country, we exploit prison labor from clothing fabrication to farming to chips, technology. There's all sorts of jobs that we are outsourcing for the cheapest labor we can find. And so I don't think this is just as much as the movie is about California's exploitation of inmate firefighters. This is also a commentary on just how we as Americans look for the cheapest labor possible.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this about the making of this film. How did you create the forest fire for one, and then Bobby, what was it like to be in that forest fire?
Uh, Bobby, did I tell you? So our cinematographer Ming, his father saw the movie, and after he saw the movie, he looks at his son and he goes, "Ming, you don't have to do this. Like this is it's too risky. Like you're too close. You don't have to risk your life to make these movies." And he looks at his dad and goes, "Dad, it's not real. It's all fake." And so what we did was, because obviously California is very prone to forest fire, we did not want to even run the risk of turning a fictional film into a reality. So we, from the get-go, I get on these calls and the producers would ask me, they were like, "How are you going to do this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's easy. We're just going to use light and we're going to use smoke. And then we'll use VFX and we'll juice it all up in post." And then I get off the call and I go, "I don't know, maybe." But that's what we did. We had these particular lighting units that would flicker like flame. And then and Bobby can speak to the sort of reality of this. We then juiced as much smoke into this like little gully of a valley that we were in. And so if you were there on the day, minus like the heat and it's actually really cold when we shot, but minus the heat and the flame itself, it really did feel like we were in the middle of something.
I mean, look, the regular public is going to really think that everything in those scenes is absolutely real and authentic. I mean, I did. I mean, I'm watching Otto running, pushing through all of that smoke, and I can hear the other actor, the other firefighter yelling because it's almost like Otto's leaving him behind. The smoke was so real. The lighting of the flames was amazing. I mean, sometimes I felt when I was sitting there watching it and then replaying some of those scenes over and over again, you're feeling the fear. You're feeling the heat and this forest fire basically attacking Otto and then the other guy that were there. Bobby, when you pull that fire protective cover over you, I mean, I thought that was the scariest thing ever.
You know, it was really fun and it was safe, and we had a great time. And I think you can make things like this when you're really, doing things with people you love. And so we can take it as far as we wanted to, and really, really go there and be in those places and really bring these things to life again. And yeah, it was also, when I saw it for the first time, super surprising how great it looked. I remember the first thing I saw was Robin sent me a clip of of like that little scenes, that little cut there where we're like experiencing the fire, where these characters are going through it, and I remember going, "Whoa!" And it was a really, really, really good job.
There is nobody. I mean, I think I can guarantee this. Nobody is going to sit there when they see this film and go, "Oh, that fire is fake." Oh, no, 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 no. There's no way you can tell. It is done so well. It's probably one of the best special effects fires I've ever seen. And of course, you've got to add the sound effects on top of that because that just makes the experience that much more real.
So I just want to give a shout out to our VFX supervisor Celeste Lizer and our sound engineer Casey Ganton, because they, like you said, and I've been asked this a lot, like, how did you do the fire? The fire was the product of every single department, every single creative individual on this movie working together for weeks and months ahead of time. And all of this rests really upon Josh and Bobby and Fabian, who were acting in the scene, to give it that extra, like, because if they don't believe it's real, then we don't care. So it really was this sort of tapestry that all played into itself, and I think the end result is something that is as spectacular as it is because of all these elements. And so it's to this day I
It,
smile because
man,
we really
I
pulled it off.
I have seen feature films that I had to review that suck in making fire. And I mean, if they could hand out a miniature Oscar just for the special effects on the fire of this film, yeah, I would give you one because I mean, I'm looking at all of the movement that Otto's going through, the other firefighters going through, and I'm like, how in the world did they pull that off? Because because you said it, it's not like we're gonna light a forest fire in the state of California, to film it. And my mind is that okay, this is done outside. This is not a sound studio, but how did they pull it off? Because you hear the crackling of the fire, of the trees, the wood. I mean, so everything played into making this so real, but you also brought the feeling. And of course, Bobby, you're responsible for this part of it, of bringing the audience in with this great sense of fear as to, is he going to make it or not? So kudos to you, Bobby.
Thank you.
I think that's something we spoke a lot about too. Was very, very few people, myself included, have never seen an out of control fire within that proximity. And I think it was really important for us to carry the scene as we did, because that's what these guys are doing and what they're up against and what they're putting themselves at risk for. And so that's why we really wanted to show that insight into that window.
Well, you added another risk before they were sent out to fight the fire. A lot of people don't realize that in prison systems, cell phones aren't allowed. And so you add that simple little risk for Otto, who is desperately trying to get a call through to his daughter. So you add that tension within the film. Then you add the other tension of going out to fight the fire. But in the midst of the fire, he is still pausing to try to get a call to his daughter. Because when he went under that cover, I mean, I was wondering, is that going to be the last time he talks to her? So it was done well. So let me ask this for both of you, and each of you can answer this in your own way. What were some of the biggest challenges during filming?
I had the best time. We spent, I think it was, we like, I remember watching the sun set and then watching, it was a full moon that night. And I remember watching the moon rise and also set. And then the sun rose again. And then we shot, there's this, in the last sequence of the short, there's that shot with the sun rising and just reaching right over that mountaintop. And it was so beautiful. I don't think for me, the challenge was staying warm during the cold as we were in the mountains, and there was no service on the phones, but I had the best time. And I think it was magical what we did and how the timing worked so just seamlessly without us trying to work. We were not God, but God was in our favor, like God, it was beautiful. It was a very beautiful, and it's on camera.
It is. And you bring something up because I think it's my favorite part of the whole film. When the sun rises. One of the ending shots of the film is when the prisoners are riding back in the van back to the prison. But Otto was looking back, remembering that he could have lost his life and never see his daughter again. But then there was that magic moment that I will always remember of this film. It was that ray of sunlight that comes through the window of the van, and then Otto turns. It was that moment to me that brought a moment of hope, and that his prayer was answered. Because when you turned, when the sun came through that van window, and you turn, there was just this ever so slight, it's almost this very slight smile that you would have to just focus on to see if you could catch it. And that's what made that moment so beautiful. And again, it was like the prayer that he prayed as he was under the protective fire cover. And then here's this ray of sunlight. So to me, I just thought that was probably the most beautiful moment in the film.
Thank
I
you.
want to I'm going to mention something very small, which is those two moments are also my two favorite moments of the movie, and they are the moments when, and I remember what I said to Bobby right before we shot both of those, um, and the personal ask that I made of him right before we did, and it was just a question, and then you kind of nodded, and then we went off and shot it, and I think both of those are like the first take of the of like of the role. The last shot was just we only had one take of that. We only we were told we had to wrap, and so we were literally driving back to where our trucks were parked, and that was like the end of the shoot. No matter how we sliced it, they didn't even want me to shoot it, and I just said, "We're driving back anyway. Just put the camera in the car. Bobby's ready to go," and and the sun was there. It was sort of meant to be.
So the sun was real.
Oh, that was very real.
Ah, that, see, that is the miracle and the magic of movie making right there. And it's my favorite scene. And for you, Bobby, in that particular scene, what was going through your mind?
I was just trying to get home. you know, I think Otto was just trying to get home, but I as well was just on my way home. So it worked out perfectly. Synergy, it's just mixed. But it was beautiful. I don't for me it's like whatever we need for the film, you get the job done. So I'm glad that we got that time in the camera, and I'm glad we have it. And
Yeah.
film is fun. So.
Yeah, that sealed the deal for me, of just loving this film. Now you're Oscar qualified. First of all, what does that feel like? But also, what has been the audience's reaction to the film?
I mean, the reaction has been my favorite part. People have been on. I think we really keep people on the edge of their seats. And I'm also just I've been very touched by people who've come up to me and who have said like, "Thank you for making this," because I don't. I've had young people especially say, "This reminds me of my father or my parents," and we don't get to see movies like this very often. We don't get to see prisoners in the lens of heroes, and so I just felt that people's reactions, because when you make these things and you have no idea how people will respond to them, and so the overwhelming reception has been really great.
So now you're Oscar qualified. What does that feel like?
Bobby, we're enjoying, we're very
Uh,
we're
you,
humble,
you
very
know,
humble.
yes, I agree with him. We're so super humbled, and we're having a great time experiencing everything that's going on now, and the people that are backing up the film, and the people that love it, and how it's touching people's hearts and it's resonating. And it's just exactly what I think Robin set out to do. And I'm so happy that I joined the journey, and here we are. Um, Now we get to talk about it with our friends, our family, and the world, and really hope that this film inspires people and really educates and brings awareness to like we said earlier, people that are not recognized, and the ones that are putting their life at risk for us. And so we really do hope to take this home all
Well,
the way.
and that's the thing about this year's short films. There are more films with a message and with a meaning, far more than what I saw last year. Now, Robin, let me ask you this one, because as I watched this film a few times, I had a wonderful thought. Is there any thought of Fireline becoming a streaming series? Maybe a feature film, but I think it works great for a streaming series.
We hope the answer is yes. The short answer is yes. We're working towards it. I think we're using every piece of momentum that we have that the short film is building. The reactions, like I said, have been well beyond what we could have dreamed for. I think the picture turned out bigger than we ever assumed. And, I think that when the wind is blowing, and if you put a sail up, you'll catch something.
Yeah, the thing is we have plenty of detective shows on television. There's not a whole lot of firefighting shows. But FIRELINE gives us something far beyond that, because you would have multiple character storylines. There would be conflict because it is a prison, but then would be heroics on the outside in the areas of fighting a fire. And of course, that gives plenty of action for a series like this. So whatever you plan on doing, I'm going to be sitting on the front row waiting for the next chapter for FIRELINE. And because, ladies and gentlemen, this is a film to see. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this film, it's the lives of prisoners. They're wildland firefighters, and they're the subject of, and I have to say it, it's an exhilarating Oscar qualifying short film called FIRELINE. The story follows Otto as he grapples with the challenges of prison life and his desire to connect with his daughter against, again, the backdrop of a forest fire. This film highlights the pivotal role played by prison labor in California's firefighting efforts and the limited opportunities for these individuals to pursue careers in firefighting upon reentering society. That has to change. Now, after being denied parole, now Otto desperately tries to call his daughter while fighting the fire. Now, amidst the chaos of this field, an accident forces him to confront the true extent of his obligations. Now, FIRELINE, this, ladies and gentlemen, is an incredible, dramatic, full of emotion, full of danger, but it also gives us a ray of hope that awaits our main character, Otto. My prayer is this, that this film will help those that are in prison who are fighting on the front lines, well, to save the communities in which they are in, and that the communities that we are in, and to protect those communities, that these prisoners will have a wider choice of careers when reentering society. So, hey, I want to thank you, Robin and Bobby, for sharing again this incredible, tense, emotional short film that has now been Oscar qualified. And all I can say is much success to both of you and everyone who worked on this film for chasing that gold statue in the next few months.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Well, you are very welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, look, if you attend a film festival and FIRELINE is there, you need to make sure that you are sitting in that audience to just receive one of the best short films of 2024. And I have to say, it's one of the few action-packed films as well, because we don't get to see a whole lot of action in the short film category. But Robin and Bobby, they brought their A game and gave us an A+ film. So as for me, ladies and gentlemen, you'll either see me at the movies or from the red carpet.